Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. It's Thursday, the 1st of October. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Rough, Tam Cowan and Steven Naismith are here with me. Thank you very much for joining us on the programme. You can like, share and follow us on our Facebook page, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And thank you very much to the thousands upon thousands of people joining us Monday to Friday. It's great to have you on board and also reading out as many of your opinions as we possibly can. So, the dilemma tonight, are we going to be witnessing one team through, two through, or as somebody suggested to me on Twitter, you haven't given us the option of neither team making it through. I actually completely and utterly disregarded that. That's me being an optimistic Scot. But will the qualification mean managers get players to bring in, or will their disqualification mean managers suddenly have to ship a few players out? That's always the big dilemma with these games, Roughie. Suddenly, the budgets are affected, managers have a meeting with the chief executive, and before you know it, there's a midfielder gone or a striker sold.
Yeah, well, Neil Lennon has already come out and said that's not the case at Celtic, but that still remains to be seen, before the deadline. I'm sure there will be clubs out there who have been looking at the Celtic striker. And Celtic would have to be, the board would have to be particularly strong if they were to get knocked out. But as we know, Celtic have got bigger things to fry with the 10 in a row. So Neil Lennon will be hoping that nobody moves on at all. I think the Rangers situation, I think they've covered themselves a wee bit with the people they've brought in. So I think Morales leaving wouldn't be such a big deal to the Rangers supporters, because I think Steven Gerrard's really stacked that squad, and if he can get another midfielder in, you'd be happy with that.
Yeah, still at this moment, I think just waiting to see what happens tonight. And then one more player, I think, is on Steven Gerrard's radar, as it is with Neil Lennon. Hi to Niall, hi to Lee Shanley, Andrew Davison, Una Brennan there with us, Billy Knapp as well, Stuart Ramsey, Brian Hamilton and Michael Climby. Just a few of the people joining us so early, quick off the mark and on with the live show. So with that in mind, it's Rangers against Galatasaray at home. Our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi looks at the opposition.
Rangers welcome Turkish giants Galatasaray to Ibrox on Thursday night in the all-important one-leg Europa League playoff, with a place in the group stages on the line. Galatasaray are Turkey's best-supported club and were formed in 1905. They're managed by veteran Fatih Terim, who is in charge of the Istanbul side for the fourth time of his career. Gala are the most successful team in their country, boasting 22 Super League titles and 18 Turkish Cups. They've also lifted this trophy before in its previous format, the UEFA Cup, beating Arsenal on penalties in 2000. Last season fell far below expectations with a 6th place finish, although things are looking better this time around as they sit 3rd and are unbeaten in 10 games. 2 of those matches were against Neftchi of Azerbaijan and Croatia's Hajduk Split, the sides they knocked out in the previous rounds. The Lions also boast international stars including Fernando Muslera, Radamel Falcao and Arda Turan, although they are expected to rotate and Turan has been left at home as a COVID precaution. These two teams have met before, back at the turn of the millennium. A 3-2 win for Gala in Turkey was followed up by a goalless draw in Glasgow. Steven Gerrard will be hoping for a little bit more than that tonight.
Yeah, I can look back, Steven Naismith, at the Galatasaray of old, at the early part of the noughties, at the start of 2000. Certainly they were a formidable team, and I'm not for a minute suggesting they're not as formidable, but this one is probably a real test for Rangers.
Yeah, they're probably their biggest test. And like in the report they said, there could be a bit of rotation, and that seems to be the theme that's coming out since the tie was announced. But for me, Rangers need to play on. Since Steven Gerrard's come in, the European games has probably been where his team's been the most impressive, and they seem to feel the most comfortable in their games. Their performances away to Porto was another big game and a great result. So I think the manager will be playing on that, but it's a real tough game, and one that they'll need to be at their best to get through.
Yeah, and of course there is the added incentive for Alfredo Morelos, full in the knowledge that Carlos Queiroz is watching. He's now the manager of Colombia, and also Falcao will be a threat for Galatasaray in this match. And Steven Gerrard was quick to point out yesterday, his Colombian striker has to focus on making the Rangers fans happy first.
I've had conversation with the Colombian national coach, who tells me he's going to be watching both players on Thursday night. So I think the only incentive for Alfredo is to impress the Rangers fans, to impress me, the coaching staff and his teammates with another fantastic performance at this level, because we know when he's at his best how important he can be for the team. That should be his only focus. But of course, before the game, after the game, I think it's good for him to have a role model in Falcao.
Yeah, Rangers 20 goals in the last 5 games, so they can score 4 wins and a draw. I'm looking at the bookies; they're 4-5 to win this one, 7-2 the away win, 3-1 is the draw at 90 minutes. But Tam, it could be extra time and penalties in this one-off tie.
3-1 immediately looks quite tempting, Peter, for a game like that with no fans there, maybe to help sway the result. I've never been as sad about fans not getting into a game until about 2 minutes ago, when young Gabe announced that the Galatasaray manager is called Fatih. Fatih Terim. If ever there was a case for tonight, a packed house at Ibrox and the fans having a wee chant directed at the away dugout, that would be great. And I think Rangers are going to need every bit of help they've got tonight, because in terms of the team news, I know that after picking up a knock for Parkin Sunday, that Bobby Madden has pulled out tonight for Rangers. So, that's... No, listen, can I qualify that remark by saying that we need to have another look at the penalties? See the two penalties that Rangers got at Fir Park on Sunday, I would, yes, have been screaming for them at the other end of the pitch. But I think, I wonder what Steven Naismith thinks of us. I think now we've either got to say, Peter, that any ball that hits any hand in the box under any circumstances, it's a penalty. Just cut out all the grey area, right? Or if we don't do that, we've got to put it back to being at the referee's discretion. Let's treat the referees like grown-ups. That wasn't Bobby Madden making those decisions against Motherwell for the penalties on Sunday. That was the rule book. And I think it's better. It's high time we showed the referees a wee bit more respect than that. But as for tonight, I am tipping Rangers to go through after extra time against Galatasaray. And then what I want to see happening, because I know he's part of the Rangers TV set up tonight at Ibrox, to celebrate Rangers winning, I want to see Graham Souness running out onto the centre circle with a flag and planting it in the centre spot. I think that would be terrific. So I'm looking forward to that.
I have to tell you, Tam, it'll be far easier for him to do that than the last time he actually did that in Turkey, because he almost started a riot when he did that in the middle of the centre circle. Nevertheless, though, I did notice that Graham Souness and Walter Smith were there. They're pulling out the big guns on Rangers television for this one tonight. Just before we talk...
And Peter, incidentally, hang on, talking to the pundits, I'm just alerting this wee story to yourself in case you missed it. You're talking about, Rangers TV being able to bring in the big guns. I hope you saw the story that Rod Stewart is looking for a reporter's gig at the Old Firm Derby, because he realises that might be the only way into the game. I'm sure PLZ have press accreditation for that one. How about giving a wee rookie cub reporter job to the 95-year-old wrinkly rocker? Do you know the publicity you'd get for PLZ, Peter?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I amazingly, I've had 2 or 3 people actually mention to me, and a couple of them high profile, Tam, how do we become reporters for that game? Both Rangers and Celtic friends of mine are all desperate to suddenly become a reporter. So if Rod wants to go to the game, and I'll just stay and have a wee chat with Penny and just keep her company while he's there, I'm absolutely more than happy to do that. Jim Dolan, look at Roughie. Look at Roughie. Rod's at the game.
He woke up.
There you are, dancer.
He was away making a call there.
Well, I give Rod the ticket and you can look after Penny for us.
Right. So that thing is, I was going, last time I gave him my phone number to give me a phone, he threw it away.
Poor Rod. Jim Dolan says, "Hi lads, could you please give my wife Leslie a wee mention? She kids on, she's not listening till she starts laughing at what you say. Cheers, lads." So, Roughie, if you could give Leslie a wee mention, that would be really, really nice, because obviously you're the housewife's favourite.
Yes, obviously we'd like Leslie to listen into the show with her husband, and the more lady listeners we have, the better, our watchers, because we know we're very active in that department in this show.
Yeah, absolutely. We embrace everybody from all
Yep.
quarters, to be honest with you. Gender, the lot. That's why we have mentioned join the football family. The video is out there. Tam, I sent it to you today as well, so that you've got your copy of it. So it's out there on Instagram too. I know you love your Instagram, Tam. So the video's out there.
It looks good. I think it was very, very well made. I congratulate you on that, Peter. But you need to send it to me in a kind of a WhatsApp format at the risk of repeating myself, so I can put it up in my own Instagram at the real Tam Cowan, and I'll get it up there and out there for you. Okay?
Yeah, I'll do that for you. Absolutely. Lots of
Thank
people posting messages. Yeah, I will do that because I'm at your beck and call with these things. Over and above that, listen, what are Rangers make of the game? Here's the Rangers manager on tonight's match.
You know, from experience in the last 2 years, we've noticed that there has been a rise in quality as you progress through the different rounds. Galatasaray, you know, are a well-known team. Big experience on the European stage. They've got a fantastic players, a really strong spine to the team, and they've got experience of playing in these type of games. So, you know, we know it's going to be a tough test for us.
Yeah, so Galatasaray, 10 goals, Roughie, in the last 5 games, 4 wins and a draw. They got a 0-0 against Fenerbahce. They are, in many people's eyes, Roughie, one of those teams that should be, you know, every now and then in the Champions League as a team. You often see them there.
Yeah, I know we always sort of talk up these teams, and sometimes quite rightly so. I mean, they have got a pedigree. There's no doubt about that Champions League stuff. They've had a good start to the season. But Steven Gerrard's not going to say to his men in the dressing room tonight how good they are. It'll all be about Rangers. No home advantage. They're playing particularly well. They're scoring goals. For me, Alan McGregor is absolutely top-notch just now, particularly in these games. I think he's going to be a big, big player. He's going to make saves that can make Rangers win that game. That's what you've got behind the defence. So, no, I think he'll be very, very positive. The way Rangers have been playing, particularly in Europe, they've been dealing with a lot of hard customers. So, I wouldn't talk this. I know they're a good side, but I wouldn't be talking up this team too much as if they're sort of unbeatable.
Yeah, 1-0 Rangers. What are you going, Tam? You've gone extra time.
As I say, I think it'll go extra time. So I'm going to thanks for alerting me to the odds here, because I think 3-1 for the draw is pretty tasty. But I can see Rangers getting through. I think if I was a Rangers fan, Peter, I'd be feeling a wee bit perturbed and a wee bit put out that because of the so-called penalty controversies in the game at Fir Park on Sunday, it maybe took the shine off of what was a very, very decent Rangers performance, and they're fair banging in the goals. So as Stevie and Roughie will know, that it strikes me that for the professionals' viewpoint, that confidence can be a huge thing when you're getting into football, and if you're in the back of winning games, if you're in the back of scoring a lot of goals. And I think Rangers get into that tonight with their tails up, and it's crucial. It's big for Rangers and Celtic to get into these group stages, because I'll remind you, Peter, at a time when we're all talking about the economy of football, the minute Rangers or Celtic in the past get into the group stages, be it was the Champions League in the old days, or now, alas, we're looking at the Europa League, the clubs would be able to bring out the packages, the 3-match packages that the fans would snap up, and the clubs would absolutely trouser it in, because that was over and above the season ticket money. So, to get into those group stages and at the very least get some more TV money, because obviously the loss of ticket money is huge, the loss of hospitality. I remember going along with my wife as a guest in our previous job, and I went to Celtic Barcelona. I get slagged for it at the time. Aye, Cowan, we know who you really support, blah, blah, blah. I was going in the hope of seeing Lionel Messi in the flesh, almost a bucket list thing. That, of course, Peter, you'll remember, it was the game that he didn't even fly into Scotland. So I missed seeing him, but it was still a great event. And Peter, we went into the Champions Lounge, I think that's what it's called, before the game, because we were there with hospitality. And I keep thinking back to that. How much money must Celtic lose with not having lounges like that open for the big bucks fans on European nights? How much must Rangers we're missing out on way getting the fans into their hospitality. So I think they've got to keep going. I heard some nonsense and I read some nonsense this week about Rangers and Celtic, either or, will be happy to get pumped out of Europe because they can focus in the league. I think with every penny being a prisoner, they know that is folly. I think they need to be looking to keep as long as they can in all competitions.
So just a short BBC answer there from Tam Cowan to that initial question. But now we move on because Stevie was actually in daylight in his house when Tam started that answer. And as you can see, it's now dark. So, Stevie, what do you make of how that game's going to go?
I think, like at the start of Tam's answer there, Rangers are the confidence and the combinations between the right back and the right wide player or the two midfielders is very evident that they are all on the same page. They are anticipating or understanding what's about to happen, which is obviously good. So as tight as I think I'm with Tam, I think it'll go extra time, and I just hope Rangers can go through.
Yeah, Roughie, scoreline I've gone for is 1-0. Tam and Stevie, extra time. What about you?
No, I'm going to go for Rangers to win 2-1 on the 90 minutes.
Okay, simple as that. Lots of people giving us their opinions on that as well. So more than happy to get your opinions on the next game, which is, of course, Sarajevo against Celtic. What about Sarajevo? Here's our reporter, Gabriel, once again.
Celtic are in Bosnia and Herzegovina on Thursday for the second time in 15 months to face Sarajevo for a place in the Europa League group stage, but it will be an unfamiliar arena as the clubs meet at the Stadio Bilino Polje in the city of Zenica. FK Sarajevo are Bosnia's most well-known team and were formed 74 years ago. They're managed by Vinka Marinovic and usually play at the Asim Farhatovic Hasa Stadium in their own city, but not tonight. They boast 5 Bosnian league titles to go with their previous 2 Yugoslav division wins. 6 Bosnian Cups were also picked up along the way, so they are used to winning. And that's exactly what they did last season as they won the league for the second year in a row. They're on course to make it 3. They currently sit top and are unbeaten so far domestically. Sarajevo were knocked out of the Champions League by Belarusian side Dinamo Brest in August, but they beat Budućnost of Montenegro in the Europa League third round. These two sides met a year ago with Celtic winning both legs by an aggregate score of 5-2, and Neil Lennon's side will take any result tonight that ensures the same outcome and a place in the group stage.
And as you can tell, our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi is learning day by day how to pronounce so many people's names and different venues. He's got them all to contend with for this. I can remember many a day just making up the sound of what that possible name could be as you go through your learning curve in journalism. Anyway, it's Sarajevo at 9-1, Celtic 3-1 on. I think you can get 4-1 the draw and then off to extra time and penalties on this. They have managed to beat them before, and this is what Neil Lennon makes of the opposition in the game.
You can compare, you look at our team, it's changed over the piece, and obviously look at their team as well. So you can take bits and pieces from it, but it's not going to really sort of have an effect or be of much relevance to tomorrow night. Yeah, I mean, they're in good form. They've won the last 4 games. So they're a big physical team. Well organised, set plays, and they've got a bit of pace in the wider areas. So we know it's going to be a difficult game.
5 games that Celtic have played in, they've scored 14, they've conceded only 3. I thought there was something missing about Celtic over the last couple of weeks, Roughie, but then against Hibernian, it's the best I've seen them play.
And I would say it was the best 45 minutes I've seen them playing. I don't think they were particularly impressive in the first half. I thought Hibs had a few chances. It might have been different if they'd scored any of them. But no, I said yesterday this game's a worry for me. If they put in a performance like Riga, then it's going to be a long, long night. I do think that they will come through it eventually. But I think if this was any other year, Neil Lennon would go there and be happy with 1 each and then take them back to Parkhead, but that's obviously not the case. So I think this is going to be a long, long night for Celtic. I think if they can get a draw and go to extra time and win the game sometime there, I think they'll win by the odd goal, but I think it's going to be a really nervy 90 minutes.
Yeah, just in case you're not aware of it, Stephen, because you are new to the show over the last couple of months, and we're delighted to have you. But just to explain to you, Roughie normally starts with doom and gloom in the first minute of an answer, and you think, oh, hey, wait a minute, Roughie's going to tip Sarajevo here. And then he does a full 360 and then suddenly comes in with a nice wee cushioned, positive spin on it. So, Stevie, just in case you think Roughie's become hard-hitting, remember, there's none of that once he gets to the final point on it. How do you feel about this, Stephen?
Nah, I think he'll be more comfortable. From what the game at the weekend, I'd agree with Roughie that there was moments Hibs looked dangerous, but I think that comes from the front player. Edouard's not been what he's capable of doing. Ayeti obviously going off with an injury. That's the one thing I think the manager's going to need to go with Edouard now, and it'll all stem from how he feels, how he holds the ball up. Is his link play good, which will determine how comfortable a night it will be for Celtic. But I think the fact they played them last season, and overall, I think their quality will shine through and they will get through comfortably.
Yeah, well, they don't have James Forrest, Tam, but I don't think that's a worry now because the boy Frimpong just gets better and better. I think El Yunusi's got to play. As Stephen said there, Edouard looks out of sorts. I make no bones about it. I think somebody's messing with his head. The only thing I would say, Tam, and I don't know if you've noticed it, the big guy that's come up from Brighton, he's had 2 or 3 bloopers in 3 games, as well as scoring 2 goals. But I think he needs a wee bit of time to settle in. And if they play a 3-5-2, he better have his wits about him.
Yes, I agree.
CJ's on that, Peter.
No, Peter, what I must... I've got a petted lip now, but no, what I would say that my forecast tonight is that the Celtic fans will be mumping and moaning after the game. So like Riga, I'm going for a 1-0 win for Celtic. The fans have been spoiled rotten in recent years, and take it from me as a Motherwell fan who's never had a whiff of the big time. I can't believe. I know it was a poor performance, a poor display. It wasn't a classic. I watched that game last week. But Celtic ultimately got through. And I couldn't believe the kind of backlash for some of their supporters who, as I say, have clearly been spoiled rotten. But as for tonight, this is one for the history scholars that are tuned in, Peter. I think Celtic are going to win tonight. And a bit like Gavrilo Princip 106 years ago when he assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo to spark the First World War, I think Celtic will get 1 shot on target and that will be enough. Sarajevo 0, Celtic 1.
What was the point you were going to pick up on,
Just
Stephen?
On Big Duffy. See, a big change for him going to Celtic. He's vulnerable because Celtic play so expansive. He's been in a Brighton team who he's not really had to move too much. They've been compact. It's a totally different game, and I know that people will say the quality in Scotland is different, but when you're coming up against a guy that's got real pace, it doesn't matter what quality's there. He's going to cause you problems, and I think that's the biggest difference he'll be finding at the start of his Celtic career.
Well, I'm glad you said that because, as you know, because you've played for Rangers, many a player comes in and they cannot believe the time they've got on the ball. And sometimes there's a stray pass here and there, and you can get away with it. But he's had a few stray passes, and as you mentioned with pace there, he had a couple of balls over the top of his shoulder from Hibernian, and he looked dodgy with it. But again, I think we've got to cut him some slack. It's like everybody else. I looked at some of the guys at the back end. Helander wasn't too impressive when he started with Rangers, and then you've got to cut them some slack and give him some time. So maybe the big man just needs that sort of time to get himself acquainted with it. It's all about concentration for goalkeepers, centre halves, you name it. So with that in mind, I think we're hoping that both teams will get through. Mo El Yunusi certainly says this is vital for the team to get into the group stages.
Doubt we want to be there. Of course, unfortunately, it's not Champions League, but of course we're going to do everything tomorrow to reach our target, to play in the Europa League. So We are focused. Both look sharp today after this training, so we're ready.
Yeah, you can tell there the pain from players who wanted Champions League football, and now they're in the second tier of European football, which again, there's no getting ourselves on in Scotland. Any teams who qualify now, we are at Europa League level, and what level within the Europa League, only time will tell. Just out of curiosity, and Tam, you're better placed than most to talk about this. I noticed at the weekend and today when I was looking at the Galatasaray Rangers game, because of COVID, you very rarely get a match programme now. Now, Rangers fans have got a chance to actually buy the match programme for tonight, Europa League Galatasaray Rangers. I've seen the front cover of it, which is great. But, the Celtic Hibs game at the weekend, I think that there's a small batch printed. But you know what it's like? There's a huge market for people who still love buying a programme.
Yeah, absolutely, and maybe even more so now, Peter. They become souvenir items for the guys that have got complete collections up in their loft and end up being worth a bit of money. I was amazed, and hats off to them for doing it. But when Motherwell played Glentoran in our first outing in Europe this season, I was asked by the programme editor if I could do a piece for it, and I assumed it was maybe just something that was going online or whatever, but no, they did produce a full glossy match programme. And I think what it is, I think it's all maybe to do with club history. They wouldn't maybe want in, years for now, decades for now, perhaps centuries for now, they maybe wouldn't want to look back, and just because of that dastardly virus, that clubs opted out of producing an official match programme, which they have done, of course, since the days of 19 Canteen. So I would applaud any club that still make a good stab at the publishing a match programme. I don't think they do it for money, Peter. I think gone are the days when they might look to play adverts for local businesses and they might hope that a lot of fans buy them. They used to as well try to encourage you to buy the programme. You'll remember this, Peter. I remember huddling round a guy with a bit of money maybe who'd bought a match programme at Fir Park when I was a kid, because without him and without being able to lean in and look at his match programme at half time when they used to read out the rest of the games, A, B, C, D, E, the Fly Gets wouldn't even tell you who was playing who. It would be A, 1-0, B, 2-0, and you had to have a programme to know what games they were talking about. Now, that might have been a clever device to try and get a few shekels in at the club, but I think it really is only those guys now, the absolute devotees who are buying programmes, but they're part of the fabric of football. So well done to all the clubs who are still churning one out.
Yeah, and apologies, I can't remember, Roughie, the last time I huddled around anyone for a look at a programme, to be perfectly honest with you. And Stevie was disgusted at the mere suggestion of a huddle for a programme. I mean, it's just outrageous, isn't it, Roughie?
Yeah. No, as Tam said, we're doing particularly well. We are making a lot of money. We've got a programme that's been out there, Partick Thistle and Hearts United. We are, selling quite a few of them, as you can imagine. Both sets of fans buying them up, commemorative times. So, no, we're doing well with that one.
Well, I did see the Partick Thistle Hearts scarf. You know how sometimes in European football they join them together to commemorate it. So there's one of them, and there's also the programme itself just says Partick Thistle Hearts, and as it gets to game 17, it just says, please refer to the team from yesterday on page 17. You just go back the way. There's all these features in it now that, a word from the chairman and the chairwoman on how they all stick together. So it's fantastic, Roughie. And then just at the end, in the last page, is details of how you can get onto WhatsApp groups. So with that in mind, let me also tell you,
Peter, when you're talking about friendly games like that, and Hearts and Partick Thistle being such bosom buddies these days, the one I'm looking forward to, and I hope Steven Naismith is as well, Hearts against Dundee, one of the big grudge fixtures with all the hoo-ha that happened over the summer. That has been moved to Friday night, I think October the 17th, but it's been moved to Friday night for the TV audience. And again, think what fun there could have been at that game if you had both sets of supporters allowed in. with our chants, with our banners, with everything else that goes with it, because the bottom line is, as much as it will be billed as a grudge fixture, it's not as if the opposition dugouts are going to start a wee bit of fisticuffs. It's not as if the directors sitting up in the stand with their masks on are going to have a wee dig at one another. That's what you really need, fans inside a ground to really get the fireworks going, but, sadly not. Sadly.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, Tam, I mean, you think there won't be fireworks, but the great thing about it is, because there's a bit of bad blood there, you need a special type of player who actually plays for one or other sides, who can argue with the referee, pick a fight with the opposition, and annoy his own teammates as well. So if there's a player
Charlie will
somewhere...
be right at home, Charlie's great signing for Dundee.
I want you. I can't wait for you to cement him when he takes his first touch on the ball. How you're going to come on this show after laying him flat out is going to be brilliant, Stevie.
Just got you were talking about going in with the studs up, weren't you? I just don't do it in the show.
Absolutely. It's still, I have to say to you, my favourite game of all time is one of my friends invited us to the game. In fact, I say one of my friends. Actually, I was invited to do the hosting of half-time Aberdeen Hearts, Roughie, and I kid you not, I was in there watching the game, and it was an absolute joy, because the wee man there, he picked on Lewis Ferguson. I mean, I'd love to have had a radio microphone on him. So clearly Ferguson's fizzing out of his ears. He's picked on him. He's cemented the boy who's now down at Derby. What's his name? Shinnie. He's done him in. He's called for the referee to book every Aberdeen player. He's then noised up his own teammates, anyone who was playing rubbish, he was on their case. And somehow Aberdeen get pumped 2-1, and he got man of the match. He also got referee of the match. He managed to get 4 players booked, Roughie. He was absolutely unbelievable. It was a virtuoso performance in referee. Not since Willie Miller played for Aberdeen have I seen a more majestic performance from a player, Roughie.
Yeah, and it's more noticeable now when you're sitting up in the stand and you can hear every word.
New technique for it nowadays.
Oh, you're going to have to find a new technique. That's another thing as well. Listen, with that in mind, Scottish Premiership games to look forward to, and lots of stories attached to it as well. Thanks to lots of people who are obviously thanking us for the T-shirts that we've been sending out. We are going to pick indeed quite a few others as well from the names from Facebook who are like, sharing and following and subscribing on YouTube. So we will get T-shirts out to you. Tam,
that's a nice one, Peter. I like that one that you're currently modelling. I like that. That's a nice design on that. Let's see it a wee bit clearer. Can you?
Yeah, you happy with that one?
Yeah, I like that. That's a cracker. I'd take one of those.
Okay,
you get them in other sizes, presumably, aye.
Yeah, get them in a medium.
What's your star for? What's your star for?
Don't start a riot, by the way. Don't start a riot. I think it's for taking a point off you at singles at tennis. Anyway, now. What do you think? That's another thing I was going to say to you just before we talk about the Premiership fixtures. I know Colin, who's a Hearts fan, has said, what do you make of the signings that you brought in? Now, I've got a bone to pick with you, because last week we did suggest to you that Halliday was Hearts bound, but you stayed tight-lipped. You were as wide as the Clyde with it.
I honestly didn't know.
Come on. Yeah. You didn't know. What do you make of him?
So it's above my pay grade.
Yeah. What do you make of him?
Good. He's been, since he came in, not just football ability, he's got good ability, but the type of character he is, he's experienced the old firm, he's experienced the having to win, and for us this season that's going to play a big part, because a lot of teams have had us as favourites to go up and we're going to beat every team, but it's never as easy as that. So we need guys who are going to drive and not accept a mediocre performance or a lacklustre performance. So he definitely comes into that category.
I don't know about you, Tom, but I like him.
Yeah, I wouldn't have do like him. I wouldn't have betrayed his confidence when you asked me last week, Peter, because when we had him on the radio shortly before he signed for Hearts, he did tell me off air that it seemed as if it was pretty much, I think, a spin-up between Hearts and Hartlepool. So I think Hearts have maybe won a watch there. Seems a pretty decent book.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he's a good player. I hope he plays in the right position. That's one of the key elements. But as ever, we had him on the show early on, Roughie, and I think he's. I think the butt of many a joke from Celtic fans because he declared his love for Rangers at the time. He was a Rangers fan as a boy, but he's got a great personality.
Peter, sorry, point of order, Mr. Speaker. Sorry to butt in, Peter. Huddersfield, not Hartlepool. I get the wrong H there. Sorry, Huddersfield.
Yeah, and people are going mental on here, just saying it's unbelievable that Tam mentioned Hartlepool or Huddersfield. So Tam, they don't really give a flying hoot. You know that. I know that. I know.
You nearly let one slip there.
Absolutely. But Roughie, the other thing I was going to say is, Stevie's got a personality on the park. Andy Halliday's got a personality as well. I mean, he's a likeable guy. He'll be great for the dressing room, I think.
Yeah, I think he was very brave to sit out and wait and to see what clubs would come in for him. Obviously, when you've been a team like Rangers for so long, as Stevie said there, the standards get set, so you don't want to go to somebody who's going to drop in these standards. And I think Hearts have won a watch in this one. That he's got a lot of experience, and Stevie's team have got a lot of young boys there as well. I'm sure having somebody like that about the dressing room would be very encouraging for these young boys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to Stuart Murray, who is basically, again, got the brain the size of an amoeba. He's been very abusive on the Facebook. Don't forget, if you are posting a message, there are young people, decent people who've been brought up with nice parents who know how to conduct themselves. So if you are going to have a go at any of us, or indeed the programme, try and keep it within the boundaries of decency rather than using abusive language. We always like to say this is not the show for you if you're thick or abusive. It's as simple as that. And Stuart, I think you've encapsulated every one of those qualities. Anyway, apart from anything else, have I dug him enough, Tam?
So I'm just thinking that's Tam McManus. That's Tam McManus in a sugary peg then. That's your remit.
Absolutely. Listen, Aberdeen against St Mirren. So suddenly, Jim Goodwin is determined not to sell Kyle McGuinness to Hibernian. And you know what it's like, Roughie. Every time Hibs say they're interested in somebody, Aberdeen go and sign them.
Yeah, but he is a good player. I don't think Jim Goodwin can afford to leave anybody in the situation they're in just now. So you want to keep everybody. But he certainly is going places. I think maybe sometime in the transfer window opens again, somebody will come in and try and get him. But no, fair dues to Aberdeen. They've identified a couple of players. I'm sure Tam will be happy with the boy Campbell. But no, I think these are two guys who have got something to offer in the game.
Yeah. So Aberdeen against St Mirren. How do you see it going, Stephen?
Aberdeen comfortably. St Mirren have lost all that momentum they had the first few games, and Aberdeen seem to, except from the Motherwell game, they've got a head of steam up.
Yeah, absolutely. Tam, what are you going for?
Yeah, I've been impressed by Aberdeen. I mean, the Aberdeen Motherwell game at Pittodrie, the 3-0 was absolutely. I need to put that down now as a bit of a freak. Joe Lewis, Fekor will be playing it straight to one of our players. They conceded a penalty as well, and the whole thing was done and dusted 22 minutes. It was a real free in a day, a real freakish performance, a real freakish. So I think Aberdeen in this one way too much for St Mirren, and I would go.
Yeah, we kind of, you turned into Norman Collier there for a minute, but are you going for Aberdeen? Yes? Possibly. We'll get back to him on that one. And also, a big shout out from Roddy Chapman. It says, big shout out to Sarah Chapman and we'll do that for you, Ronnie. Absolutely no problem. Dundee United against Livingston. Mickey Mellon obviously is delighted. Here's what he had to say about his latest signing. Hiando Fuchs has signed on.
So to get Fuchs in and over the line will be terrific, not just for Dundee United, I think for Scottish football, that we're bringing international players into the country.
Yeah, I'm delighted. He was short and sharp there. He caught me on the hop. Livingston have signed J. Emmanuel Thomas as well. So Dundee United against Livingston. How do you see this one going, Roughie?
I've been impressed with Dundee United at home. I think they're beginning to grasp the needs of winning games against particular teams like Livy and Hamilton. So with the home advantage, I think it'll be very close. I don't think Livy will lie down in this one. They'll be encouraged by the result they had at the weekend. But I'm going to go Dundee United just to win this one by the odd goal.
Yep, I'm with you on that, Roughie. Stephen?
Me too. Shanklin coming back as well, getting goal of the week last weekend. So I think they'll win, being at home, comfortable surroundings.
Yeah, I'm going to try and hold off in Kilmarnock, Motherwell, to see if Tam somehow manages to get that Wi-Fi sorted out. But what about Hibs against Hamilton Accies, Roughie? Still, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, Hibs, despite the fact it was a 3-0 scoreline, I was impressed with the way they play football. I've mentioned to you, I like Newell. Doige was quiet, and the wee boy Doig at the left back got an absolute roasting from Frimpong, but they do play good football, and I like Boyle.
Yeah, the first half against Celtic, they were as good as Celtic. Obviously, had a couple of chances, and against Celtic Rangers, you've got to take these chances, but it never happened. Hamilton seem to have something on Hibs. I don't know what it is. They've went Easter Road a few times, and managed to take something out of that game, but I don't think so this time. Again, Hamilton don't look as if they've got 2 goals in them, so I think Hibs will win this one quite comfortably.
Yeah, Tam, what do you think?
I think that I have never hated the COVID-19 virus as much as I do the minute I log in to do this programme and your signal goes, you need to tap in. The number 518-596-0928 is going to haunt me the rest of my life. That is my code number for getting into this system. We need to get back in a studio, back in an office, back in the middle of the Strathclyde Park, anywhere at all. Because what did I miss? I probably missed the Kelly Motherwell preview there, did I?
Well, you didn't. You missed that.
Nazy went 3-0. Kelly.
Yeah, and
I went 4. Peter went 5.
Yeah, and you missed. We did an in-depth interview with Gina Lollobrigida, and it was fantastic, Tam, to be honest with you. Listen, the other thing about it as well is, which you're very lucky, is you have your off-the-ball programme, and I've asked a few people about this because we really want to all get back together and get that feeling of sitting next to Naismith so we can give him a right good leathering on this programme. But the point is, you have Studio 1 speaks to Studio 5, speaks to somebody else in Studio 2 at the BBC. I mean, you've got a budget that would sink the Bismarck so they can all socially distance in different studios.
I know it's bonkers. I must say, all joking aside, I've never been as glad that we were able since March to keep doing the radio in the manner in which we're used to, because makes such a difference. Try to do these things where you imagine with me sitting at my kitchen table or in here, Stuart Cosgrove sitting in his living room. It's just, it's terrible. I mean, we're lucky in that we can sit in a radio studio. We could have at the time guests down the line, and Stevie knows what it's like as well. He's done a fair bit for the BBC recently. If you've got proper eye contact sitting in the studio, I mean, Peter, I could make you cry here when you think back in the days when me, you, Roughie, and another guest were sitting doing a podcast on your lovely leather settee in the PLZ offices. I mean, it was amazing. We need to hope that every day screws the nut and we get back to those days. And that's why, when you were talking about earlier, and I was advocating that you should get Rod Stewart on board for the Old Firm game, I would just plead with both sets of fans, the Celtic and the Rangers fans, if they're even thinking of getting anywhere near a pub to watch that game, please play by the rules, because I don't think football is going to get another chance. The entire sport may get shut down if fans misbehave and don't go about their business properly. And at the risk of overstepping the mark here, Peter, and speaking a wee bit longer, a very important point I'd like to make as well. I was shocked, stunned, but very intrigued by an email I received last week. Try and get your heads round this one. There was a listener who said to me that, Tam, looking ahead to the Scotland-Israel game. Now, the Scotland-Israel game, when it kicks off, that could be a tight fixture as well, like the European games tonight. If it goes to extra time and penalties, the penalty shootout won't be scheduled to begin until 10:05. The pubs, under the current regulations, the pubs that will be busy, hopefully at a social distance, with Scotland fans, will shut at 10 o'clock. Can you imagine trying to get Scotland fans, the Tartan Army, out of a pub at 10 o'clock, that they miss a penalty shootout involving Scotland in the semi-final of a tournament? That is just going to be absolutely bonkers. If there's ever a reason for Scotland hosing the opposition early doors and getting a 3-0 in the bag, it is that Israel game.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Although you're looking at it from a fan's perspective, Roughie, I'm looking at it and thinking to myself, can you imagine being a policeman who's actually working that shift and has to go into the pub and say, right, out the door? That's when you know this job is difficult for every policeman and woman up and down the country. I certainly don't envy them that. Let's hope it doesn't happen. I think Tam's right on that one. Hibs against Hamilton Accies. I'm going for Hibs to win it comfortably. Tam?
Hibs against, I mean, again, the gulf is there when Hibs played Celtic the other day. Sadly, I think we're still waiting on that unpredictable scoreline that we thought might happen when the fans aren't in the stadia. We thought that might have made a difference, but Rangers and Celtic seem to be, same old. They seem to be hosing teams. It's like for a generation ago, and Hibs were well beaten by Celtic at the weekend. But when you chuck Hibs into the mix against Hamilton, who it looks like maybe missing a few players again due to COVID, I would fancy Hibs a comfortable 2-0.
Stevie?
2-0 Hibs. I think it's the first real test, though, from this season, that result with Celtic, but I think they'll have too much.
Yeah. Roughie?
Yep, I'm going to go 3-0 Hibs.
Wow, for a minute there, Roughie, I thought you were going to say, well, the qualities that Hamilton have and the way they've been playing of late, I really think that Hibs 3-0. Okay.
I'm surprised you have to let Tam and Naisy know in the first time in our history of this show we had a wardrobe change during one of our shows.
Well, this
with
is
Charlie
this
Adam.
This is unusual.
About this.
Yesterday Charlie came on with a top that can only be described as, let me think of this great Scottish word, Tam, that you know well. It was a skanky top, Skanky's a great word, isn't it? It was minging, and it just looked terrible at the net, and he wasn't happy with it. So as you can imagine, Roughie and I come on and we absolutely hammered him for having this top on, which was it's clearly one of those 2 for £1 tops. And while Roughie was going on an answer and the camera closed in on Roughie, the bold Adam suddenly had his wife or his assistant bring out a designer top, and it was on by the time we went back to the 4 of us together. So clearly there's a man who has image rights to think of when he's on this programme as well. It was some change, I have to tell you. Full marks to him. St Johnstone, Celtic and Rangers, Ross County. I think we'll wait till that's a little nearer to Friday. But nevertheless, as far as this one's concerned, Kilmarnock against Motherwell. Here's what Alec Dyers had to say about the 3 players testing with the COVID.
Hopefully the game will go ahead, and we'll wait and see what happens. Don't forget they tested again today, like we said. So, we have to wait and see and get them results back. So obviously everyone's a little bit on tender hooks, and we'll deal with the situation when it comes.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. The games must go ahead, Tam. You can't have postponements because 2 or 3 people get it, because there's no room in this schedule.
No, there's no wriggle room at all. So the game has to go ahead, and I'll pass it over to Steven Naismith. I am a fan. I see the games for always the perspective of a supporter. I'm clearly hoping it's 3 of Kelly's top players who will be missing out. So, Stevie, who should I be hoping for? And what you've seen so far this season at your old club, who should I be hoping for has tested positive? Which 3 players? I'll start, surely Burke. Yeah.
Burke's obviously in there.
Season.
Burke, the striker that's...
Kabamba.
The striker and...
Kabamba, he was great again at the weekend. 4 goals in quick succession.
And
who else?
It would need to be either Dicker or Powers, one of the ones that you would want out of the team. As much as a lot of folk won't see the work they do, they are crucial for Kilmarnock's performances. So that would be the 3. But the whole thing just shows you how week to week this is going to be constantly going on. And not even just for the players, but see the other players in the squad, a player that's maybe on the borderline of starting or not, it's hard to deal with when you're day to day not really knowing if you're going to be in the team or not. So it's one of the negatives of this. It's restarting football without being able to do it and knowing the squads you're going to be working with.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to continually. And by the way, can I just say, we're not hoping that those 3 players have got the COVID. We're just saying they'll get that much quality that it would be a bonus if they were out. Simple as that.
Because on that very note, Peter, what I think a lot of people forget, it's just when they think about COVID in football that, it's a matter of a club losing some players for a game or 2 and they need to self-isolate. But it is also this virus which has killed globally more than 1 million people. And if you listen to the experts, if you listen to the scientists, it can also affect young, fit people. So I think it'd be remiss of us not to almost mention as well that first and foremost, we wish the Kelly players who have got the virus all the best and hope they make a speedy recovery, because sometimes we just kind of dismiss that a wee bit. So good luck to the Kelly guys that have got it.
Yeah, I'm going this one a draw, Roughie.
Yeah, I'm going to draw as well. I can't split the 2 teams at all. I'm going to go 1 each in this one.
Stevie?
I think I'm going to go a Motherwell win. I think the manager spoke after last weekend that he was going to give the players a rest. That'll have done them a world of good. And after the Aberdeen result, they've got to kick on.
Tam?
Yeah, there was talk as being jaded in the wake of the Rangers game. Motherwell fans might have found that a wee bit surprising. I mean, the season, we're still at the early parts of the season. And of course, Motherwell made the point of staying overnight after our last game in Europe against Hapoel Beersheva. The idea was that the players got a full night's kip and then flew back on the Friday. So, I was had a wee bit of my cynical face on when I heard about us being tired and jaded. But I think that was, I look at it, 5-1 at home is always the sort of result that gives you the ultimate boot up the backside. I'll remind you that it was a 5-1 at home, Peter, that got Mark McGee jotted at Motherwell when Dundee beat us by that result. So 5-1 at home is always a spanking, and I'm hoping that the players would have been left to look back in that result by the management team and think, come on, we need to kick on, try and get a result against Kelly. So I'm going, I'll go 1-0, 1-0 Motherwell.
Okay. Just a little point here, and I wanted to get Stephen's thoughts on it, which is, Kerr Smith is at Dundee United. He's a 15-year-old. Aston Villa want to get him down there for training. Manchester United and Everton have been linked with him. There are a number of younger players now, Stephen, that suddenly are starting to spread their wings, which is great. But should we be worried that these young players are leaving our shores to English football, to European football, and not developing here at home?
I don't think it's as much they need to develop here at home. I think it's you can go to these big clubs and miss an opportunity to get first team football. That's the biggest thing for me. I think, again, there's been a massive shift in the last 10 years of managers wanting to keep a hold of good prospects to basically teach the fundamentals into them rather than saying, go and get first team football, that'll be the best thing for you. A lot now, probably the biggest example of it is Foden at Man City. Guardiola kept him about for arguably 2 seasons to basically teach him exactly what he expects from him that he wouldn't have got if he'd been out on a few loans. So I think that side of it, they're going to go to much greater facilities. The analysts, the sports science, everything that goes around about the actual football on the pitch is much greater at every club in England. So that in itself is a benefit. But then when they get to that stage of needing some first team football, that's where they need to make good choices. But look, it's fantastic that boys are willing to go a lot away from home at that young age and build a career, learn how to live away from home and not have everything done for you. So I think in the long run it'll be a good thing, but the only concern is the first team football at some point.
Tell me, Stephen, what your thoughts are when young Hickey plays 80 minutes for Bologna and gets a standing ovation.
Brilliant. His performance, and yes, he's got a lot of adrenaline and it's his first game and everything like that, but he looked as comfortable as any other player on that pitch. Italian football will suit him because it's a lot more technical and it's all football. And in the Bologna team, it looks as if he's got the scope to kind of get high up the pitch, move into pockets as a midfielder type player when there's a rotation going on, and that'll suit Hickey because his ability as a natural footballer is very good. But fantastic first game for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stephen, let's cut to the chase. Fans are always intrigued with us. I know I am. Aaron Hickey, you must be able to give us a wee guesstimate. Aaron Hickey going to Bologna at his age, signing, what was it, a 3-year, a 5-year deal? How much do-re-mi and good old-fashioned sterling, what do you think he's creaming in a week by going to Bologna? Are we talking a couple of grand? Are we talking 10 grand?
No, I would say I think
even
you're
know.
10 and above. I think I don't know, but I think it'll be over 10. And I think that was part of.
Good on them.
For a team like them, they need to offer more than if they're not offering as good a wage. Then you really consider the Bayerns and teams like this. That's probably put them in a much more prominent position.
Yeah.
I think.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's fantastic that Stevie can watch nearly every game in the world just now, and he's tuning into Italian TV as well now. So must be a great telly you've got.
It's all an experience in it. You've just got to take as much football as you can. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You're just learning the game.
Absolutely, Stevie. I'll say it for you. Shut up, Roughie, and let's move on to the next point, which is just before you go, Tam. How important is it that Motherwell hold on to Alan Campbell and get him on a deal the way Turnbull did?
You know what? I'm also kind of throwing this one out to Stevie because I know how we perceive agents to our players. It seems the simplest thing in the world for me as a supporter, and as Alan Campbell is the young Motherwell, he's one of our own. But it's not always as simple as that when it comes to money, to transfers, when it comes to another team. In simple terms, I, of course, would Campbell to sign at Motherwell for that extra bit of security. But I can fully understand why his agent would maybe advise him against that. And his agent actually say, you know what, Alan, if there's no transfer fee and when you go to, let's say it was Aberdeen, let's say it was Hibs, if there's no transfer fee they've got to fork out, I, of course, can then tap into that and get you even higher wages on the money they've saved on a transfer fee. So he may well be advised not to sign a new deal at Motherwell, which would protect us. Davy Turnbull did it, of course. He appreciated the way that Motherwell looked after him when the move to Celtic broke down initially, and he paid us back with that, if you like. We ended up getting £3 million for him. I would love Alan Campbell to do the same, but I'm a realist these days, Peter. The only thing I would say is I would be slightly disheartened if he moved to Aberdeen or Hibs, because Motherwell, certainly in recent years, when you look at how much we've punched above our weight in recent years, we have to see Hibs and Aberdeen as rival clubs. So that would be heartbreaking to see him moving to Pittodrie or Easter Road. But if they want to take the sting out of it, then Alan Campbell signing a deal and us getting a whack from Hibs or Aberdeen would be magic.
Yeah, absolutely. Here.
Just on that, just with Tam saying there, I think he should go bigger than that for me. But on the agent not telling him to sign a new deal, clubs that might not want to pay any money for him maybe come in the mix if they know he's on a free transfer. So maybe a higher level of club. So that is also something he's going to need to consider as he's at a crucial stage in his career.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the other part of it. I mean, there's a loyalty to Motherwell, and then there's the agent who'll be in there in the mix, and then as Stevie says, players have got to think of their long-term future as well, and it might be a higher level of club that's able to attract them as well. We will wait and see. Fingers crossed, as Tam says there, that maybe Motherwell will get a few shekels, because we're biased and we want Scottish clubs to at least make a little bit of money out of it. Roughie, before we go, and I'm going to show them this tomorrow as well, but here's the predictor, Roughie, to see exactly where we fare as far as the battle with McManus. The loser takes everybody out for a meal, Roughie. I'm not sure we've got the graphic on it. If we haven't, then we'll show it tomorrow on the programme. But it's for tomorrow, Roughie, so I've just bumped my gums from something on the menu there, which is not there. But all I can tell you, Roughie, is you're still behind. You're in last place. McManus is first and I'm second. Have you got a good restaurant from Tam's back catalogue?
Yeah, I'm sure we must have closed the gap on McManus because he didn't have a particularly good weekend. So we'll just claw him back in again because he'll blow a gasket eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed. Listen, I agree with Tam Cowan 100%. I would love for us all to be back around the city here, battering it out, belting it out, having an argument with each other. But at the moment, in this current format, we're doing our absolute best to give you all the football, the interviews with the managers and the players. We're keeping our fingers crossed that Rangers and Celtic are through into the draw tomorrow. We'll discuss the Champions League draw. We'll discuss the Europa League draw. We'll look ahead in greater detail to the weekend's fixtures on Friday night and on Sunday for Celtic and Rangers as well. To you, like, share and follow us on our Facebook page if you get the chance. And if you're on our YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe. All I would say at this point is thanks to Tam, thanks to Stevie, and also a big thanks to Roughie as well. We'll be with you tomorrow from 4 o'clock. Thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.